All right. So, uh, thanks for coming in and stopping in for this meeting. Reason being is that every year when we've got new rules that come out, it's kind of a same situation where there's confusion about it. There's very strong reactions to it, good, bad. Uh, Most of the people that have a good reaction stay silent because the people that have bad reactions are very loud. So, so I'm gonna hopefully help uh, kind of mitigate what we're looking at and kind of navigate you through what this season is going to be like and why some of the changes are coming the way that they are coming and what that means for your existing characters as well as your new characters. So the first thing to address is one, that Rime of the Frostmaiden has come out. It is sitting right here, and if you haven't gotten one yet and aren't running it, don't get it because you don't want to read through it. If you've gotten it, you have kind of an idea of what we're dealing with. First things first is that the timeline. This adventure takes place in DR 1489. To put into reference, Out of the Abyss happens, technically it happened in 1485, but it can happen later, and for AL it did happen later, but happened in 1485. 1489, in addition to this mod, is Horde of the Dragon Queen, Rise of Tiamat. 1490 is technically when Storm King's Thunder released, or happened. 1491 was Lost Mine of Phandelver and Princes of the Apocalypse and Curse of Strahd. Tomb of Annihilation happened somewhere in the 1490 to 1491 range, likely after Princes of the Apocalypse. And then in 1492 is Dragon Heist, Mad Mage, and Dragons of Icespire Peak. And then Descent into Avernus happens in 1494. So in essence, what's happening is the campaign release that just happened backed up to the beginning of the timeline of where we are at. So just about the end of Sundering. That is part of the reason why you're seeing some of the changes that are in there, because of just the navigation of the landscape, of what the landscape of the setting looked like back then. Some of the things that have been released previous to that don't actually exist yet in that timeline. So that is why you're seeing some of the class options being restricted or the race options being restricted. More on that later. The theme of this game is a survival horror game. Picture like 30 Days of Night. That's what this setting is. For those of you that are too young for 30 Days of Night, ask your parents. So in essence, Icewind Dale has become dark for years. And Auril the Frostmaiden has started to impose her will upon the entirety of Icewind Dale. And the key is that they're just trying to survive her wrath. As the heroes, you're trying to interpose yourself in that and deflect her wrath, in essence, without getting into any specifics. So the reason why this is going to affect the way that the campaign and therefore some of the campaign rules for Adventures League are going to go is that, quite honestly, for those of you that are wondering why you can't play Lawful Evil, that's why. If you know some of the lore behind Icewind Dale, they will sacrifice things to Auril the Frostmaiden even before this campaign happened, and in efforts to be relieved of her wrath for that winter. If they've got enough, if the key way is every full moon, somebody gets drawn by lottery and gets sent out without any protection or anything for the night and has to die from exposure in the winter. It's horrible, but 3 of the 10 towns do it. The rest of the 10 towns that don't do human sacrifice once a month do other methods. Those methods are either releasing like a full day's catch of knucklehead trout, so giving up their resources that they use to survive, to the elements, and then Yeti and Crag cats that are the instrument of Oral's wrath come and take them. And the ones that can't do that, they just go without heat for a night. So they have to literally huddle together in igloos or whatever they've got to avoid death. If you play Lawful Evil, you're going diametrically against the will of the party or the direction of the party. As Lawful Evil, you're going to look at that human sacrifice and say, yep, that has got to happen. Some things for the party that the party is trying to do are probably going to say, nope, we should stop that. And that really boils down to how you play Lawful Evil. If you're playing it as I've got no restrictions because I'm evil, not quite exactly what Lawful Evil is. You've got a very definite set of discipline and rules that you follow. You just are very cruel in the administering of those rules. So for this season, honestly, I've read through about half the book so far. And this season, I don't honestly see a way that you can effectively play Lawful Evil and not really just run against your party. So, knowing what I know about the setting and what I've read so far, I actually think that is pretty integral to what you're doing. So, timing for the releases that are happening. Ice Road Trackers, the Frozen North, which is 10-1, and the Great Knucklehead Rally, which is the first epic, come out this weekend at D&D Celebration. If you haven't gotten in on it, it's a small donation for each slot you want to play. There aren't many open spots left, and a lot of them are foreign language ones, so keep that in mind. But those are the 3 mods that are going to be out by this weekend. And these are just previews, so these could change before the initial release. Although Ice Road Trackers just released, so it's probably in its final edit. Gamehole Con is going to be releasing 10-1, The Frozen North, 10-2, Gnashing Teeth, and 10-3, Divining Evil. That is our premieres for that convention. We'll also be running 4 sessions of the Great Knucklehead Rally. We're running 20 tables in 4 different sessions for the epic. We will also be premiering one of the Dream of Red Wizards mods. That's a tier 3 mod, and 2 other tier 3 mods for Dream of Red Wizards. There will be 3 Eberron modules available. I had thought there was going to be 1. Apparently, I was informed there will be 3. They told me this at the very last minute, so I'm going to be trying to get the table set up for those other 2. And then we've got 9 of the Border Kingdoms modules. We had initially had 10. We had to drop 1 because of a author that couldn't meet the deadline. So, that goes through tier 1s through 4. So we're going to have the first tier 4 CCC that has been allowed, and that took a lot of campaigning with Chris Lindsay to make that happen. I've read it. I've read through the tier 4 mod from Anthony Joyce. It should be pretty awesome if you're a tier 4 player. Definitely would be one to look for. Anyways, to my knowledge, Border Kingdoms and Dream of Red Wizards are going to be season agnostic. So that means any of your existing characters can play in those modules. If you create a season 10 character, they cannot play in those modules until they reach level 5, come out of season 10, and then cannot go back into season 10. Your season 10 characters are going to be specific towards season 10. That is as of this year. As I was kind of spoiling to some of the folks that were in here earlier, the CCC program is changing. So we have got the Border Kingdoms and the Moonshays from Baldman Games are going to be integrating more with the DDAL seasons. So in the future, that may change. I don't know. There's been no story summit yet, but more on that will happen probably next year when those cons start to actually happen. But for this year, to my knowledge, unless they tell me differently in the future, They are season agnostic. So those are going to be your existing characters. So in addition, since the book is released, Dungeon Masters can start running the Rime of the Frostmaiden as soon as they speed read their way through at least a couple chapters. They can start running it. I know my table is going to be waiting until our Beetle and Grim kit arrives. Plus, we're still in Eberron, so. But other tables are going to be starting up this week. So if you're a new player, especially on the Discord server for MadDnD, check in looking for group. There's going to be some Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign starting. That's where you're going to want to start. And the reason you want to start on a campaign is because there's been one module released so far. So you're going to get one mod in, and then there'll be waiting until more stuff gets released. So that is where we're at this point. Now, to address some of the questions, and then I'll let you ask your questions that you might have or have already posted, and I didn't remember, I didn't hit to because I didn't have enough time to write a full agenda for us. Some of the questions. First off is, the motivation behind the rule changes. Two key elements to understand is one, that the admins put forth their suggestions for seasonal rules. They go to Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast edits them and sends them back. The admins cannot change anything in the rules without it going to Wizards first. So if there are questions that you've got or comments, constructive comments that you have, you address them to the Wizards of the Coast feedback. If you don't hear back from Wizards of the Coast feedback, that is likely going to be the case. Having worked in customer service and help desk before, they don't have the staff to reply to everybody's individual emails and saying, here's an issue I've got. They will collect them up, they put them in a report, they look at them, and they address them. If your comment doesn't invoke an immediate change and somebody gets back to you on it, don't either A, they looked at it, considered it, and said, no, this isn't going to work for one reason or another, and B, they don't have the time to get back to everybody individually saying, we took this under consideration and decided against it, or whatever. That's just the nature of the business, because they can't, they've just now gotten somebody set up for community management over there. So if you think they've got a full staff for customer service like that, it's not going to happen. If you then go into like Facebook and Twitter and start kind of expressing your discontent to the AL admins, they're volunteers. They have no control over this, and honestly, it's just you're just adding to the issues, because they can't control. They have no control over it. They can't change it, and so yelling at them is basically the same thing as sending an email into customer service and waiting to see if it changes. So, and in fact, it's a little bit less than that, because it's literally going to affect no change, because they have no ability to change anything. So the reason I bring that up is because some of the treatment that the AL admins get every time one of these things happen is quite honestly discomforting for me, because some of the things that they get sent are bad. Be nice to the AL admins, because they do what is literally a thankless job, and they do it for some swag now and again and opportunities to write. So keep that in mind. It's more so than even the organizers for conventions and for your local venues. The issue that they're doing, that the motivation of doing this is a money grab so that people will buy the new pretty shiny book. It's speculation at best, and quite honestly, it's not even really correct. people are going to buy the new pretty book because they want to play those new classes. They're not forcing you to do this by these rule changes. They're just making that new pretty be an option because, quite honestly, they built that new book release around Rime of the Frostmaiden because they come out at the same time. So, and that said, if you've seen the two previewed classes, the Barbarian of the Wild Magic and the Genie Pact Warlock, I'm sorry, I've already changed what I'm going to be playing in Season 10. So I'm like a Barbarian and Wild Magic, done. That is my wheelhouse. So we either buy the book or we don't buy the book. And quite honestly, Adventures League is a fairly small chunk of the Dungeons and Dragons purchasing community. So if they're relying on us to really sway sales one way or the other, they've got bigger problems than just that one book. There's a lot of people that just buy the books and just play the books. And those people are still buying the books because we're collectors by nature. It's part of our DNA. And yeah, it's there's no Wizards of the Coast, deep state that is trying to conspire to make you play a game a certain way. It's just a set of rules that pertain to this season. So the lawful evil thing, as I said before, was a change to this campaign setting. For this season, it's not. It does not match up in a perpendicular alignment to the goals of the party. Last season, 100% was totally on board with it. It's Avernus. Of course, lawful evil is going to work in that campaign. You're literally steeped in lawful evil for half the campaign. So, so that's where we're at. Does that mean it's going to come back after season 10? Possibly, probably. I don't know. I don't know what the next season's going to bring us. Is it addressing an issue where there's been lawful evil characters that have been disrupting play? I don't think so, but I could be wrong. I don't see all the feedback, but I don't think so. We kind of handle it on a table by table basis with the DMs. So take that as well. As far as I've seen some feedback or some questions about how this is just like adding another level of complexity to determining if a character is legal or not. I stated this in the Slack channel once. We don't ever really audit character sheets or logs to determine if it's a legal character. I mean, if we did that at every convention slot, I'd have to add 30 minutes to each slot just so that we could literally audit every character before you sit down and play. At the beginning of a season 10 game, just say, hey, this is a season 10 game. Your character should be made by legal season 10 rules as far as race, class combinations, alignment options, and so forth. I assume you all are set to go. And then if it comes up during the course of play, address it then. Like, no, you can't be evil. You should alter that. You should change that. Do the smallest change necessary to make that character legal. So if I've got a lawful evil character, okay, make it lawful neutral. Done. We're fixed. Move on. Improper class race combination. Do whatever is the most minimal amount of you have to do to change that. You can change it after the slot, but say, okay, this is what you need to change to make that character legal. You need to do it before you start the next game and just move on. Don't allow them to use any janky stuff that works with that class race combination and call it a day. We don't necessarily have to micromanage everybody's characters at every table slot, especially at a convention. Now, granted, for GameholeCon, we've got 4-hour slots with an hour in between each slot. So we've got some extra cushion time, but that extra cushion time is also there so you can go eat, go to the bathroom, prep for the next game. So don't eat up too much of that time by doing any of this stuff. It's up to each character or each player to control their character, maintain their character, and be legal. From a character standpoint, don't assume that means that we're just going to let you get away with something. If we see it and we know that you know that what the rules are, like say you're in this meeting, we will say something to you about literally just choosing to play an illegal character, knowing what those legalities are. Doesn't necessarily mean anything too ominous. It's just going to say, we're going to go, come on, you know the case, you know what's going on here. And we're going to tell you to change it and move on. So I've got a couple of questions in here, so I think I'll take a look at them and address them. No sitting down at a table and saying papers please is not going to happen, Ted. Thank you very much. My group is scrolling. My group is curious about playing season 0 to 9 stuff. What rules do we follow for character creation? If you've got a current character that is made now, you follow those character creation rules are set. They just cannot play season 10 stuff. If you want to create a character to play that older stuff, use the season 9 rules. At least that's what the admins are saying right now. Use the season 9 rules. And that's the character creation rules that you're going to be using for that. So in essence, they will be considered a legacy character from that point on. That does mean that that character can play the older stuff, or the season agnostic stuff, which is the season 0, or and that's it. They can play that stuff, or they can play, or you make another character to play the season 10 stuff. So if they want to do that, you can. If you want to do older stuff and season agnostic stuff, just follow the season 9 rules. Season 9. Don't go back to some of the older ones. Season 9. All DMs will receive a comment 0% saying reading Void and Draconic. I don't know if we'll do that, but I like the idea. I like where your head's at, Ben. Feel free to contact WotC customer support if you don't get those. The Tasha's variant ability scores. I didn't read through the entire Tasha release that they did. I know that the classes are available. I would have to read through the full file of the Tasha's preview to see if they're going to be allowing the variant ability scores. If you do not level up to level 5 or play a game at level 5 by the time Tasha's releases in November, totally. Should be fairly easy to do unless you just literally start speeding through the hardcover. But if you're playing the hardcover, what I would say is stay at level 4 until Tasha's comes out, and you can always do a rebuild if they don't. So that would be my suggestion. If you have Tasha's Cauldron for your +1, will the class feature variants be available? I'm going to say possibly. Yes, assuming that those are determined to be AL legal, which does not happen until the book releases. That they will say it. The previews are the one thing that they've said this is going to be AL legal. So I believe the intent is to make those class feature variants legal, but I do not know for sure. So I will say possibly. If you're concerned about that and you wanted to use those on a character, leave that character at level 4. Don't play a game at level 5 until the release. Let's see. ROTFM is a +1 according to season 10 rules. What does that mean? ROTFM. Somebody help me out there. Who was that?
Rime of the Frostmaiden.
Rime of the Frostmaiden. Oh yeah. Jeez. Thank you, Doc. Rime of the Frostmaiden is listed as a +1 because there are a couple of spells that are in it, and there are some they're not really character backgrounds, but it's addendums to the current backgrounds that are in it. I don't know if that's necessarily the intent, is that to use those spells, you have to have Rime of the Frostmaiden as your +1, because if it is, it's like 3 spells. You're not going to do that. I think they're just listing it as being one of the legal resources based off of that.
There's also the Goliath.
There is also the Goliath. The Goliath is in Volos. but yeah, the Goliath is in there, so you could play a Goliath and get access to those spells as a second thing. The Goliath in Rime of the Frostmaiden, I did read through that section. It reads the same as the Goliath in Volos, so there was no alteration to it like there was with the Tieflings and the Aasimar in season 9. So that's before I scroll down too far here. Is there a classification name for a character that is season 10 and after tier 2 moves on to run non-season 10 content? A season 10 character that at tier 2 moves on to the future content becomes a legacy character. It seems kind of counterintuitive that they go into the future and become legacy, but that's the way it is. So in essence, basically your season 10 character becomes a grandfathered legacy character at that point. If you have a cert, for example, the Goblin one, you can use those following season 9 rules. You can use those using following season 9 rules, and from everything I've seen posted by the admins, you can use them in season 10. Which means if you are one of these people, rare people that have got a Battery Goblin cert that has not assigned it, you can in fact be one of the few people that plays a Goblin in season 10. Assuming that they don't correct me. But the posts I've seen so far says, yes, you can, that's what the certs do, is they bend seasonal rules. So for instance, for my Tuesday night streaming show, Cheryl was intending to play a Goblin Cavalier and has a Battery Goblin cert to play a Goblin Cavalier. And when these rules came out, I had to post right away to our group chat and tell her on Tuesday before our existing show, your Goblin is still safe. You've got a cert, so don't go changing your character now because of this. Unless something gets told differently, you're a Goblin from Chult that somehow decided to go to the frozen north and become a popsicle. So. All right, so looks like all the questions have been answered so far. Has there been anything that you've seen or that questions that you have that have not been answered currently that are still hanging out there for you? I'm going to pull up our Discord real quick to check out some of the stuff that's in there.
Oh, I know this one was brought up, but
Mhm.
variant human. There was talks about that not being
That's
possible.
legal. That's allowed.
Legal?
Yeah.
Okay.
The intent was that is legal. That is a PHB, even though it's a variant. It was called out specifically in previous rules, but it is definitely legal. All right. So yes, tiefling is allowed, just not the variant tieflings. If your spells are based off of Xanathars, that Xanathars has to be your +1. No option to be evil, which we've already addressed. And again, if you're looking at why can't I play evil, maybe look at why you're playing that character as evil. Maybe if character is literally just lawful neutral. You can be lawful good and still be a not nice guy, because there are some lawful good people that are kind of jerks. That said, I played a lawful evil warlock that always wound up being the moral center of the party. Don't ask me how that happened. Wes remembers that. The season 9 alignments. Let's see. Billy score increases. Oh yeah, that goes without saying. Honestly, I think we've kind of touched on everything. does anybody have any questions about the new setting and the kind of the reasoning behind it, as far as like the no evil or the different races and whatnot?
I think there are two questions in the chat. Is there an estimate for when the content catalog, DM's guide, etc. comes out?
The content catalog DM's guide for season 10 is probably going, well, the content catalog is a big living document. So that usually is the last thing that gets adjusted. Currently for season 10, it's just going to include the hardcover and the one that's been released so far. As far as the guidance for it, that should happen probably usually within about like a week or two, 2 weeks. It all depends on how quickly the admins are working on it right now. The longer they have to spend mitigating some of these threads in Facebook and whatnot takes away from them being able to do this kind of work, which is another reason you don't want to necessarily just pile onto a Facebook thread and swarm it. The reality is, if you're looking at running the hardcover and you see something and go, that looks like something that would be a story item by the season 9 rules, kind of like the Shield of the Hidden Lord, plan on that being a story item, and you're probably going to be correct. Otherwise, random stuff that happens, just play it as random, and if we have to back it up, we back it up. Do you need to run season 10 DM rewards? Do you need to run season 10 to add something to your player? I'm going to, I would say, err on the side of caution and log your DM games that you run for season 10 separate from your other ones in the event that you have to run it in season 10 to award a season 10 item. But I'm willing to bet that any DDAL is going to count as a season 10 reward going forward, but I'm not positive because they haven't even gotten to the point of addressing DM rewards yet. They will definitely be addressed by the time GameholeCon happens. They'll probably be addressed within the same couple of weeks that it takes them to deal with the content catalog and whatnot. The races being removed canonically, I don't know that they've been removed canonically. They've been removed from this setting.
It
So
removed canonically because the trebuchet was broken.
the trebuchet?
Yeah.
Okay. So the races were removed due to the setting, due to the theme, and due to what modules and adventures are coming out. As we've said previously, there are certs, charity certs. There are certs that you can earn from certain games that you play, or if you play in an author only or a Wizards of the Coast game that is at a convention, that could change this. That could make you have the ability to play one of these races that are not listed as viable in the campaign guide. That's what a cert does. The cert allows you to bypass campaign rules. So, goblins were removed for a reason. It isn't because they hate you and they hate all goblins. It's because there was something to it. Season agnostic, yes, Andrew. Season agnostic is kind of synonymous with legacy at this point. So season agnostic basically will mean anything that is not a season 10. Realistically, what season agnostic means is author onlys, which are season zeros, and so they've just kind of grouped created content into that. And in essence, in this instance, it does actually mean anything that is not season 10 is going to be in that season agnostic umbrella. So you can play any of these races in any of the any of the legacy or season agnostic events, which there are a lot of them. And Dream of Red Wizards, they are making new modules every season for these things. They're all going to be like tier 3 and tier 4 because the Red War, you don't just jump into the Red War at tier 1. And so those are all going to be high level adventures for those people that are convention goers that play a lot of Adventures League and have got tier 3 and tier 4 characters and want tier 3 and tier 4 content. The con created content is going to give you access to more tier 1 to tier 3 content to play. And so you've got access to all those. Lost Mine of Phandelver and Dragon of Icespire Peak are season agnostic. They are not season 10 modules. So if you want to run Icespire Peak or the Lost Mines of Phandelver, you can. If you're doing it because of the fact that the season 10 is limiting, consider the modules, consider the reasoning why. Especially if you're bringing in new players, those new players may want to play in that season 10 setting. A lot of the veteran players aren't looking at the essentials kit or the starter kit modules to play, just because those were kind of those learner adventures. We're looking at some of the seasonal stuff that's coming out, the CCCs, the season 9 stuff, the season 8 stuff. There's plenty of other content out there. If you're in MadDnD and you're looking to run some of this stuff and you don't have access to it, you can talk to your organizers, like me. I've been known to buy some modules and give them to the dungeon master so that they have some stuff to run, or get access to some Border Kingdom stuff. I don't mind throwing some of the credit on those so that our authors actually get a little boost. So there are still plenty of tools available for new players, but keep in mind, new players just coming in aren't affected by the season 10 rules like the veteran players are. They're just stepping into it. So they're just now looking at, there's a set of limiting rules that is just like having house rules in a home game, that allows you to make a character. So there's plenty of tools available to them with these season 10s. They just have to look at, these are the character options I've got available to me, make a character in those options. So keep that in mind. That was actually one of the things that I thought about addressing, which was that whole, well, if I don't have all those options, that limits my creativity. Speaking as a person that went to college to be a writer, creativity isn't having a limitless options and just regurgitating whatever comes to mind. If you're given a set of parameters and creating something within those set of parameters, that is, in my mind, more creative than just having do anything. Reasons being is because if you've ever written a short story or a beginning of a novel and then tried to write flash fiction, you know what I'm talking about. Flash fiction is 500 words or less. Try and write a good story in 500 words or less. It's very limiting, but it's very creative. Another example is, I don't know if any of you've all watched American Horror Story, but in, I think it was season 3 or 4, it was Coven with the witches. You had Kathy Bates playing Marie Lalaurie, one of the first serial killers recorded since before the term serial killer was even made in New Orleans. Halfway through the season, I'm not spoiling it for anybody because it's years have passed, she gets decapitated. I didn't say killed, she gets decapitated. She spent half the season of that show as a literal talking head on a platter, and she chewed scenery. She stole scenes being just a talking head. That is very limiting as an actor, and she was able to pull it off. So there you go. I don't think that it's going to be nearly as limiting for the new players that are coming in as it's going to be for our existing players. And the existing players, you just have to take it in the fact that this is a new season. We create new characters based on this new season. Last season, everybody made characters knowing we were going to hell. In this instance, you are going to Icewind Dale. You are going to the Frozen North. You are literally entering into 30 Days of Night. Make your character. Kind of like with season 4, you'll probably see a lot of people with sunlight sensitivity. Why? There's no sunlight. So As soon as the sun comes back, boy, they're going to be hurting units, but there's no sunlight now. So make your character based on that. So you have the ability as a player, you have the advantage of a player knowing generally what you're getting into. So like John Pickle created a character for Avernus, and one of his cantrips was Firebolt. And about by level 3 or 4, he was just like, why in the hell did I choose this cantrip? But he kept that cantrip. He never rebuilt the character to take that cantrip out. And it was awesome because every time we were in hell and he could actually shoot something with fire, he was just gleeful that he could actually use Firebolt. So keep that in mind. Right now, yes, season 10 characters would be the only ones with custom ability scores, assuming that custom ability scores are passed for this. In the event that the book comes out and that all of those options are released, it would still be for season 10 characters. So if you want to use any of the Tasha stuff, you're going to want to do season 10. So, let's see, did I miss anything else? If I have a character that is already legal by season 10 rules, I can play it in season 10. Yes, if you played in D&D Live, if you're playing in Celebration this weekend, those are season 10 characters. If you created your D&D Live character and it is illegal by the season 10 rules, you have two options. You either A, make that character a legacy character, or B, just do whatever the minimal thing you have to do to make them season 10 legal to make them legal. But yes, they are meant to be season 10 characters. This is just the preview runs of these modules so that you can get a taste for it and everybody can be chomping at the bit once it releases. Let's see. Oh, Andrew asked that again. Yep. I thought the custom ability scores in the 10.0 player's guide, that is rather than being in Tasha's as +1. 1 second. I've got the 10.0 player's guide up here right now. Let's take a look through it. In fact,
They're
share screen.
appendix 1. I have it up too.
Yeah, but I can do this so everybody can have it up. Determining ability scores, customizing your origin in D&D. Also, for example, the relevant information is included in an appendix to this document and doesn't count as a PH +1 rule. All right, appendix, renowned. Customizing your origin, is that the one? Yeah, ability score increases.
Yeah, it should all be right there.
Yep, it's all right in there. So that is all season 10 legal. I completely skipped over that part. So I'll stop the share on that. You all have access to that document. And it's now, if you don't have access to the document, Andrew, just put it in the chat window. You can download it from there. So yes, that is going to be available as season 10 rules, not in legacy rules. So if you want to make that, I believe somebody was saying the dwarf sorcerer or warlock that's got the bonus to charisma and constitution and can wear armor, you have to be a season 10 character. If everybody does that, it's going to be a very boring table. Please don't all do that. So swap languages, does that mean you don't have to speak common? So let's just put it this way. The way that it looks, no, you don't have to speak common. The intent, I don't believe, was that. And quite honestly, if you make a character that can't speak common, I'm literally going to make you wear earmuffs at the table whenever anybody's talking. So yeah, if you want to be completely janky and not be able to talk to folks, if anybody remembers in season 7 when you got to play that grung, that one grung character that you had to die to be able to have access to, yeah, that novelty wore off quick when you couldn't talk to anybody in the group. So keep that in mind before you make a character that can't speak common. It'll be incredibly limiting. So don't take it lightly. My character speaks celestial and primordial, but knows how to say hot dog and bathroom and goblin. That's basically about it. Yeah, that would be about the extent of it. So, when you're building your character, just consider your options of what you're doing before you do it. Or as has been said multiple times, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it. Realistically, I think that is one that'll wind up getting a little bit of an errata at some point where they, say this was not the intent that you could not speak common. The intent was your language in addition to common could be changed. But for an elf, who knows? So play it however you want to play it, but keep in mind it could be an issue depending on the table you go to.
Don't be that guy.
Well, Connor, if me telling you not to do it is making you want to do it more, that does say something about your personality. But hey, whatever. Do you. Just know that, just because you do it doesn't mean that people have to like it. And also, you want to make sure that you're making the table fun for everybody, and that's including the dungeon master. And so if the dungeon master has fun at your expense, that's what it's going to be. So any other questions about any of the season 10 stuff? Because if not, we're coming up on an hour, and I'm sure that some of y'all got games you want to get into playing here. So any last questions before we end this this town hall meeting for the good of the order? How would it work for two people who don't know common but have a shared language? Secrets? Sure. That is going to be handled at the table by the DM. I don't have to make a rule for that. Neither does the rest of us. So, all right. I'm officially closing this here out. I'm going to be putting it up to YouTube for everybody to see. If any more questions come up during the course of the next week or two, post them to the Slack, to the Discord, and we will look at answering them there. All right. Thanks for showing up, everyone. Good night.